EA is obviously a massive company in the gaming industry, and whenever an EA or a Blizzard or a Ubisoft adopts new forms of monetization, other companies follow in droves because if they think something's going to be profitable, it's pretty obvious that smaller companies will follow their lead. And one thing that big companies adopted, started pushing, and hurt the industry with was loot boxes. People were willing to give them chances at first, but companies like EA made them as predatory as they possibly could, and now companies like EA are starting to push NFTs, and people are already fighting back against them, but companies hate the pushback they're already receiving. And now we have a former EA communications manager saying the backlash to NFTs in gaming is just an example of how gamers love hating things together. But before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month or supporting via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So, this is a Bounding into Comics article. I am not surprised at all to see someone else that worked for EA attacking gamers and basically saying gamers have to get over the fact that companies want to make money and that we add different forms of monetization into games. Everyone's overreacting. Of course, not very surprising, but it says a former EA communications manager believes that the widespread backlash to the implementation of NFTs in gaming is nothing more than an example of how gamers love hating things together, similar to how players hate EA but continue to spend thousands on FIFA microtransactions. It says, for those unfamiliar, NFTs or non-fungible tokens are a form of ownership data. These digital tokens utilize a blockchain system to verify ownership of a photo, video, or more. I have talked about them in previous videos, like a situation with Ubisoft and also Square Enix. These are companies that have talked about implementing NFTs into their games, and in the case of Ubisoft, they already have, and it was a complete and utter failure, but there are a lot of companies that are looking at things like NFTs and ways they can utilize them in games now. As explained by the NFT co-creator to The Atlantic, most blockchains are too small to hold the data of an entire image, and as such, those buying NFTs are not buying the actual digital image, but rather the rights to a hyperlink URL, which an image is held on an outside server. It says he even admits that in many cases, the NFT in question may be part of a startup that fails within a few years. Decades from now, he proposes, how will anyone verify whether the linked artwork is the original? Along with concerns of ownership rights, such as what protections are offered to stop someone from simply downloading their own copy of a given image, NFTs have been scrutinized for their high carbon footprints and their frequent use in scams. Again, I did talk about this in a previous video. I'm personally someone who's very skeptical of NFTs. I'm willing to give companies a chance to utilize them in games, but we unfortunately know that when you give companies an inch, they take a mile, and they will probably end up putting NFTs into games that we all regret trying to support, we all regret giving them a chance over. But it says, nonetheless, many gaming companies hoping to sell ownership of digital items and get a slice of the pie when those fans sell NFTs among themselves have begun to push this new technology. Nonetheless, many gaming companies, hoping to sell ownership of digital items and get a slice of the pie, when those fans sell NFTs among themselves, have begun to push this new technology. A lot of people are willing to give NFTs a chance. I'm personally very skeptical of them in the gaming industry, primarily because we know how companies are. You give them an inch, they take a mile. We say, we're willing to see what you're going to do with NFTs, and then they turn around and make them as predatory as possible, like they did with loot boxes. It says companies known to have shown an interest in NFTs include Take-Two, Zynga, Sega, and Square Enix, all to the chagrin of their fans. GSC Game World has canceled all NFT-related content for Stalker 2 a mere 24 hours after they were announced due to backlash. And meanwhile, Ubisoft's venture into NFTs with the beta launch of Quartz made a mere $700 just over a week after launch. There has been a lot of pushback to NFTs in the gaming industry already, and honestly, I'm not surprised. People tried to give loot boxes a chance. We saw what companies did with those. A lot of people aren't willing to give companies a chance anymore because they've proven how greedy they are and how they're willing to push the boundaries with consumers. When it comes to Ubisoft's venture into NFTs, it was a complete and utter disaster. There were people coming forward saying, I know about the project behind the scenes. It's made absolutely no money. It's a giant failure compared to what they thought it was going to be. And when it comes to Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl, there was so much backlash on social media. This game was trending. There were people talking about it on all forms of social media. And again, people were pretty pissed off that they already announced NFTs for a game that wouldn't be released for months. It says another company charging into the opportunities NFTs promise is EA, fresh off their disastrous implementation of loot boxes in Star Wars Battlefront 2, which caused governments of the world to begin debating whether the digital items constitute gambling. And it says in November 2021 Q2 investor call, the EA CEO Andrew Wilson proposed that NFTs could be used to give fans more ways to be involved with FIFA. I personally do not care at all about FIFA. It's not something that I really am interested in, but at the same time, if they're thinking about implementing things like NFTs into these games, it's going to happen with their other titles as well, so it's really important to talk about. Now the debate over gaming NFTs has gotten red hot thanks to the opinion of a former EA communications specialist and current esports host better known as Chewboy. Mora shared his thoughts on NFTs in gaming in a response to a Twitter thread posted by cryptocurrency podcaster Jordan Fish, discussing how he upset gamers for claiming NFTs were in their self-interest. Here's one of the many tweets. It says the outrage from gamers over the inclusion of NFTs is an astronomical, unwitting vote against self-interests. If gaming costs are able to build more sustainable revenue models without paywall DLC, NFTs can improve player experience even if you opt out of buying them yourself. It says, beyond that, gamers spend thousands of hours playing games throughout their life. Why would a gamer not want to own their own in-game progression and achievements? It seems only beneficial for users to own those items personally instead of the gaming company retaining ownership. This sounds like a giant shill. I'm going to be honest. He also said improving player experience by removing paywall DLC as well as being given ownership and retaining some dollar value of your in-game engagement only has upsides for users, with the repeated backlash likely now that the first big NFT game will be an indie studio building Web3 first. He makes it seem so simple, like, oh, anyone who's outraged over this is just being a little silly. You guys just don't see the positives of NFTs, but it's not this simple. It's not like a physical item where you own it and no one can take it away from you. Companies and their shills are trying to defend NFTs in the industry by saying, oh, they're an investment and you can 100% own your progression, which isn't true. With NFTs, someone has to maintain the blockchain that it exists on, and if that disappears, your NFT disappears, and then your purchase is useless. Yes, a lot of NFTs are special because they have a special number, denoting what copy you bought, or there's limited amounts of them, but it's still a digital item that can disappear. And I personally do not buy this argument that, oh, isn't it good that you can own your own in-game progression? No, it really doesn't make that much of a difference, especially if they're being implemented into games in a very predatory way. It's not going to help the industry. It's only going to hurt it. He also went on to say gamer Twitter is not happy with me. Seems a lot of them have Stockholm syndrome and only imagine worst case scenarios from potential or implied change. The problem here is that we're talking about big companies like Activision Blizzard's, EA's, Ubisoft's, companies that don't actually care about their consumers and what players really want. They only care about getting us to open up our wallets to buy shiny new things that might turn out positive. This is the problem, is that we're not talking about people or companies that actually care about consumers and the health of the industry. Of course, people are going to be very, very skeptical and think of the worst case scenario, because I'm going to be honest, the worst case scenario is probably the one that will happen. Here's another set of tweets, and these were from the ex-EA communication manager. He said, gamers love hating things together, even when it makes zero sense. X, we hate EA but spend thousands on our FIFA accounts that reset every year. When I explain NFT gaming ownership, sounds like a scam, bro. There are a lot of people out there who, yes, do give EA thousands upon thousands of dollars a year, but I'm gonna be honest, a lot of those people probably aren't the ones that are worried about NFTs, and even if they are, their complaints and their concerns are valid. It's people like this that are ruining the gaming industry. They're taking advantage of fan loyalty and expect people to just shut up and consume product and not question companies, and I do not agree with that at all whatsoever. And here is just some of the backlash. People were saying things like, no one has come up with a legit reason why NFTs make gaming better, other than one is profiting off of digital goods, maybe gameplay. Somebody else said they spend thousands every year because packs in your games are basically a form of predatory gambling. A lot of people are not very excited about the ideas of NFTs, and they are raising very good questions. How does it make gaming better? What does it really mean for gamers? Because of course, we're talking about one side is saying, oh, you get to own your progression and you are basically making an investment, but the other side is raising valid questions like, does it change gameplay? How does it make the industry better and more positive? And we do not have those answers because these companies are not giving us those answers. I'm someone who was willing to give companies chances to see what they can do with new ideas and technology, but from what I've seen, most people don't want NFTs in games and refuse to support titles with them already. Look at what happened with loot boxes. We tried to give companies a chance with those, and unfortunately, companies took advantage of those people who were giving these products a chance, and the same thing will probably happen with NFTs. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.